Dacha How, Wosha Michael Larson, Wosha Neiman Depungyu. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Larson from BBC IML. Do here. I'm going to try again. All right, let's try again. Some troubles with connecting right now. All right, well. All right, I hope this reception's a little bit better, but Dacha How, Wosha Michael Larson, Wosha Neiman Depungyu. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Larson from BBC IML, and this is A Moment with Mike. I don't know if you got the first one I did, but at any rate, I had a request from Wendy Larson. She wanted to know about expectations. How do you set them? How do you know if they're enough? How do you know if they're too much? This is really kind of a big subject. Expectations. So we have to break down the word first. So expectations is something we think should happen, and we put it on ourselves or we put it on other people. And I would say we have to be a little bit careful of that. I think most people struggle with expectations, maybe because they're afraid of what happens if expectations aren't met. And are you ready to deal with what would happen if the expectations weren't met? Because typically an expectation would come along with also what would happen if it didn't happen. I mean, for instance, maybe you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you've been dating for a while, and you put some expectations of what you think would happen, or what you think should happen, or what you think they should do for you, what you think you should do for them, and you kind of get to like them, and then they don't meet the expectations. So now what do? You know, relational comes into play, where maybe you don't want to lose that connection, so you kind of maybe give up on your expectations a little bit. So that's the first thing I would say is make sure expectations are something you're willing to do what you need to if the expectations don't turn out. Maybe it's at work. Are you willing to do what you need to at work if the expectations don't come out right? And then you got to think about the perfection here. So is your expectation perfect? If it's perfect, is it attainable? Because we can be something about perfection. And I did a little thing about this, I think sometime last week, a story about the daughter and her father, and how her desk kept on getting messed up. And he said, well, just put it back to where it was, honey. She says, yeah, but it keeps getting messed up again. But what she wanted was so perfect that it was easy for it to get messed up. So if our expectations for something or someone are too perfect, it might not be attainable. And then we're never happy. We could be winning, but don't realize it because our expectations are too high. And then on the other end of that, our expectations are so low that we don't get enough out of it because we're settling too quickly. I would say that your expectations should be something that in order to achieve them, you must grow. But they shouldn't be so strong that there's no way to win. And then you got to think back about something else too. What if you don't meet those expectations? Well, two things. What if you don't meet those expectations? Or what if the person you're putting the expectations on doesn't meet those expectations? How do you measure that? Did they get 95% of the way there but didn't quite make it? So I would look back to how much has changed and how much has been accomplished, both by you expecting expectations on yourself and by the person that maybe you're putting expectations on, or the business or the customer or anything like that. And how much did they change? How much did they grow? How much was accomplished? And maybe your expectation was a little bit stringent, and can you make that expectation happen shortly, or maybe expand it a little bit more, and if you get enough of reward back out of it, or if you get enough accomplishment back out of it, then I'd say you're winning. But if it's an expectation that's met too easily and there's not a lot of reward out of it, and there's not a lot of accomplished, there's not a lot of growth, then I would say your expectations are set a little too low. But don't be afraid to experiment with it. Definitely, expectation, that's a big word, like I said. So how do you set expectations? Well, that's what I would put a little test to yourself on. I would think of 3 things that you want to expect out of somebody, maybe 3 levels of expectation. Weigh the pros and cons of each one, and then the one that has the most pros and the fewest cons might be the expectation you go with. And I wouldn't be so quick to give up on expectations, or to say that expectation was too strict until maybe you've done it a couple of times. Maybe it's something you need to get better at. Maybe you set expectations, see what happens, and then reset expectations, see what happens, and then by the 3rd time, you're starting to understand what's better for expectations. But if your expectations don't include growth, then I don't think it's a very good expectation, because what we should always be driving for is growth. We always have to be getting better. Now, here's the other thing. If they meet your expectations, you're going to be happy. This is the other thing I know about value. If somebody does what you expect them to do, unfortunately, there's not a lot of value in that. So I would make sure that the expectations were just low enough that if they exceed your expectations, you're going to give yourself the opportunity to be happy. Or if you give yourself certain expectations, make sure you got a chance to exceed those expectations so you can see value in it and you can be happy. Or if you are setting expectations for yourself or somebody else is setting expectations for you, make sure it's something that you can not easily attain, but you can attain and go beyond a little bit so they can see value in that. People don't see value until you exceed their expectations, until you're outstanding. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. Perfection is unattainable. But outstanding is very attainable. Think about your job. So what does it take to get a raise? If you do the job that people are expecting, they're not going to be inspired by that. But if you go beyond what the job is, just a little bit, is that worth it to them? No, it's probably, they're going to be happy with you, but they're probably not going to give you a raise for that. But if you go beyond what they expect and be outstanding, and I would say that would be, find out what the next job up is for you and start doing that job, you're going to be outstanding. And now promotion or raise is going to be much easier for them because they see value in it, because you exceeded their expectations. So that's what I would have to say about expectations. I would think about what would make you happy, what would give you growth, and that's the kind of expectation I would go with. But allow there to be some room for people or yourself to exceed expectations. I see this fly wants to be a part of the show here, so he's very annoying. But that's what I would say about expectations, is make sure they're attainable. Make sure it's something you have to grow in order to attain, but don't make it so perfect that you win, but you're not happy because you didn't meet what the expectations were. I hope that makes this a little bit clearer on expectations. I know that's a hard thing to decide, and it comes in so many different ways, but that would be what I'd say. Let's not make it perfect, but let's give you the opportunity, or people around you, or the job, the opportunity to exceed what you're looking for. You can get growth if you get to the expectation, but there's also room to exceed so you can have value. So I hope this finds you well. It's a beautiful evening out in front of Lake Superior here. We're talking about some storms here later. But I see Chad and Wendy are here. I see Susan is here. And I see Juan. I hope I got that name right. And then Anthony. And I welcome you, all my friends. I appreciate you coming on this evening. I will be here every night. Yeah, Chad, damn fly. I will be here every evening at 7 o'clock. If you guys have a subject, just like Wendy had for me tonight and Bellamy had for me the other day, if you have a subject you'd like me to go over, I love doing that. That's fun. I really enjoy that. Also, when we're on here, if you guys have some questions, if there's something I didn't quite cover the way you'd like it to be covered, put a question on here. I like Q&A. That's kind of fun too. I'd like to get some more involvement. If you like this subject tonight, why don't you give me a heart right now? I'd love to see a few hearts here to make sure that this was a subject that you... Well, did I meet your expectations or did I exceed a little bit? I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to exceed a little bit. So, but thank you for joining me once again. Have a super fantastic evening. I hope this finds you well. I'll look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And look for my posts on Facebook and on Inspired Motivated Leadership. Add something there. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or a subject you'd like me to go over, text me on Messenger or email me at mike@inspiredmotivatedleadership.com. I'll look forward to it. And we'll hope to see you tomorrow evening and in the future also. Talk to you soon. Have a good evening.